Good morning.
Good morning.
I see we survived.
Kind of.
Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Church. My name is Gary Hart, and I will be your worship associate today. PUC has always been a beacon of liberal thinking and practices in the South Bay, and it will continue to do so as we move forward in this new reality. We will continue to actively work to support independence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice from a position of love. That's our little graphic there, in case you didn't notice that. If you are here today, we want you to know we have childcare for preschoolers and religious education for school-age kids. Religious education begins directly after the children's moment, with a little surprise there. And announcements today at 1 o'clock. Is that in the library?
No, it's going to be right out on the patio.
Right out on the patio, there will be a post-election support group out on the patio today at 1 o'clock. Bring your Kleenex. Also, I think D. Masters would like to yell at us about flowers again.
This is about flowers. Look at the beautiful flowers we have here today. And if you sign on the door of the kitchen, there's a calendar you can sign up for flowers. You can also make an announcement when we give the joys and concerns and tell maybe a special occasion that you're dedicating flowers for a special person. And we're doing something else right here. Russell, stand up. Okay. So you can really see it. Okay, there she is. She'll take your money. I'll take your money too, but she'll take your money in flowers. So if you can't make it to get the flowers because of driving problems or, like me, laziness, then you can bring the money to Lynn and she'll get the flowers for you, and still you can put your name up there. Okay?
And it can be as little as $15. And you can also, what I brought up here, and Leanne brought that one down there, those are fake flowers up there. So if you ever have something at home, I brought the peacock feathers last week, she brought the fountain grass. It doesn't have to be red flowers. It could be the giant bristling crab or something. So just let us know. Leanne's right there too, and helping put it all together up there, because the aesthetic is so cool.
Does someone have a Joshua tree?
Our pastor just reminded me you could bring in a Joshua tree for Joshua.
No Joshua trees.
All right, time to get serious now. It's time for our chalice lighting. Today's chalice words were adopted from Eric Walker Wickstrom. As we approach our day, let us remember that we are doing the work of the congregation. When we do the work of this congregation, we touch lives. When we touch lives, we change the world. May this chalice flame we now kindle remind us throughout our day of our ministry and our mission.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm Pastor Joshua, for those who don't know me, and I'm still Pastor Joshua for those who know me. Both, for you and them. It's so healing to see all your faces, to be here in community. Thank you. I am so grateful that you are all here and that we are all here together. I am going to call us to worship this morning with some inspired words that one of our congregants found, shared by Venus Williams. And so, these are the words. You are awakening to the same country you fell asleep to, the very same country. So pull yourself together, and when you see me, do not ask me, what do we do now? How do we get through the next 4 years? Some of my ancestors dealt with at least 400 years of this under worse conditions. So continue to do the good work. Continue to build bridges, not walls. Continue to lead with compassion. Continue the demanding work of liberation for all. Continue to dismantle broken systems, large and small. Continue to set the best example for the children. Continue to be a vessel of nourishing joy. Continue right where you are, right where you live into your days. And if you're not continuing all of the above in community, partnership, collaboration, what is it you have been doing? What is it that you're waiting for? With that, I'm going to introduce an interesting opening hymn that Billy Joel wrote 1989 when he was 40. And some young person came up to him and said, "We're in this situation because of your generation." And Billy Joel said, "Well, wait a minute. Do you know what we did in our generation?" And he wrote a song, which is in your program, and the choir is going to help us sing it. You're welcome to stand in body or spirit as you are able, and sing "We Didn't Start the Fire" by Billy Joel. Red China, Johnny Ray, South Pacific, Walter Winchell, Maryland. South Korea, Marilyn Monroe. Rosenberg's H-Bomb, Sugar Ray, Panboom John, Brando, the King and the Catcher in the Rye. Eisenhower vaccine, England's got a new queen. Marciano, Liberace, Santayana, goodbye. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire. No, we didn't light it, but we tried to fight it. Joseph Stalin, Mountain Calm, Nasser and Prokofiev, Rockefeller, Campanella, Communist Bloc. Roy Cohn, Juan Perón, Toscanini, Dacron, Dien Bien Phu, Falls, rock around the clock. Einstein, James Dean, Brooklyn's got a winning team. Davy Crockett, Peter Pan, Elvis Presley, Disneyland, Bardo, Budapest, Alabama, Khrushchev, Princess Grace, Hayden Place, trouble in the Suez. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire, but we didn't light it, but we tried to fight it. Little Nicky Mantle, Kerouac, Sputnik, Chewin' Line Bridge on the River Kwai, Lebanon, Charles de Gaulle, California baseball, Starkweather, homicide, children of the Linnamine. Ben-Hur, Space Monkey Mafia, Hula Hoops, Castro, Edsel is an Although this morning I did start the fire. But that's a different fire. Bring us together in community. All right, I'm very excited to welcome, we have a new employee starting, Dr. Haven Perez, Dr. Haven Perez, who will be our religious coordinator. He's just come on for spiritual guidance for our youth. And I do want to thank, I don't think they're here, but some of our youth, Lily and Alex and Rhiannon, helped to interview Haven. So we want to thank them as well. Call them out. And we'll thank them again when we see them in person. So Haven, if you want to come up, welcome.
All right, I guess I'm welcoming all the children and people young at heart. All right. Okay. Wabi-sabi is a way of seeing the world that is at the heart of Japanese culture. It finds beauty and harmony in what is simple, imperfect, natural, modest, and mysterious. It can be a little dark, but it is also warm and comfortable, and it may be understood as a feeling rather than an idea. Wabi-sabi was a cat who lived in Kyoto, Japan. One day, visitors from another country asked Wabi-sabi's master what her name meant. It had never occurred to her before that Wabi-sabi was anything more than her name. Wabi-sabi watched as her master drew breath through her teeth, shook her head, and said, "That's hard to explain." The cat's tail twitching, she watches her master still, waiting in silence. Curious now, Wabi-sabi wondered if her friend Snowball could explain the meaning meaning of her name to her. Snowball, who had been napping, stretched, yawned, and sighed. "That's hard to explain," she blinked. "It's a kind of beauty." She added after a minute, her eyes closing again as though dreaming, she went on. "An old straw mat, rough on cat's paws, pricks and tickles, hurts and feels good too." Then Snowball went back to sleep. Wabi-sabi wasn't sure she understood, but she didn't want to bother Snowball anymore. So she asked Rascal, the dog, if he knew what Wabi-sabi. Rascal was smart, but kind of mean. "That's too hard to explain to someone like you," he snapped. Then almost to himself he said, "Poor Wabi-sabi, as simple as a brown leaf. So ordinary." "Now I'm even more confused," sighed Wabi-sabi. "Am I beautiful or ordinary? Can anyone explain Wabi-sabi to me?" she cried. A bird flying by thought the question was for her. "That's hard to explain," she said to Wabi-sabi, "but there is someone who can help you. His name is Kosho, and he lives on Mount Hyle in the east. A wise old monkey living among the pine trees knows Wabi-sabi." "Thank you," said Wabi-sabi, and off she went to learn what her name meant. To get to Mount Hyle, she had to cross through the city, dazzled by big buildings, shiny glass, sleek cars, awed by the busy, sharply dressed people. She wondered if these pretty things could be Wabi-sabi. She decided that if her name was true to her, it must be softer, quieter, and darker. Even in cities, before the shock of the new light, the colors of dusk. A short time after Wabi-sabi entered the woods, she arrived at the foot of Mount Hyle. The woods were dark now, so hoping to find Kosho in the morning, she curled up beneath an old pine tree and went to sleep. She woke to the sounds of a stick stirring and tapping, a warm bowl of tea offered by a monkey. Please, steam rising gently. Very glad to have the tea and company, she said. Thank you, my name is Wabi Sabi. That's wonderful, the monkey replied. Encouraged, she asked, do you know what that means? Well, he began. I know hard to explain, she said, but he went on. The pale moon resting on foggy water. Hear that splash? A frog's jumped in. That's Wabi Sabi. That's Wabi Sabi, she asked. Is that all? I don't know if I can. It's more, said the monkey. Listen, watch, feel. He said no more, so she watched him make tea. He moved slowly but gracefully, as if he were dancing, and he handled his things as if they were gold. Although they were wooden or clay, Wabi Sabi felt what was in her paws. A warm, heavy bowl, comfortable as an old friend. Yes, not fine, smooth china. She looked carefully at the woods surrounding them. There was so much life as in the city, but here things were not clean, neat, or sharp-edged. There were no straight lines, yet there were many designs on trees and clouds and dirty ponds. She saw that everything was alive and dying too, like the damp autumn leaves curled beneath their feet. Simple things are beautiful, she heard the monkey say as he poured more tea for her. Looking down at the tea in her bowl, seeing herself plain and beautiful, she whispered, now I understand. After some time, Wabi Sabi thanked her new friend and started back for home. Because she did not hurry, she found a place called Gikuji, the Silver Temple. There was nothing silver there, but she found the place to be very beautiful, in a Wabi Sabi kind of way. Although the buildings and gardens were shaped by humans, they were neither fancy nor grand. Moved by the natural simplicity of the place, Wabi Sabi composed 3 short poems about what she saw. Yellow bamboo stalks bow by tea house doors so low. Emperors must kneel. Dark buildings floating sit on white sand seas. A stream sweeps small stones, chanting. The monk returns, leaves to just raked sand. This humble cat might understand. Tired but glad, Wabi Sabi returned at least to her house. She curled up on the straw mat in the kitchen. Enjoying the warmth there, she could smell the wind in her fur and feel her long journey steps deep in her bones. The sun's last rays stretch. A silver brushstroke shivers on warm, clouded glass. Now I think I know what to call this feeling, she said to herself. It's Wabi Sabi, cried her master, seeing her. Where have you been? That's hard to explain, she purred, feeling simply and beautifully at home.
Thank you. And thank you guys for helping with the props.
All right, let's go to school.
All right.
Surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Dr. Haven Perez, you guys, that sounds pretty good to me, didn't it? Now it's time for Candles of Joy and Sorrow. We share our good and bad times in our ritual of joys and sorrows. We share these very personal messages so that we can comfort and help each other, as well as be comforted and helped by others. If you would like, you may come forward and light a candle in silence or with a brief verbal expression of a special joy or sorrow. come forward over here by Pastor Joshua.
Kelly is, oh, there we go, Tess. Thank you for sharing with us. It's important not only to share openly in community, but also just to be in community as we hold things in our hearts as well that we can't share, but we're in the presence of people who are supporting us and loving us and validating us. And there are tons of things I'm sure we're all holding in our hearts, good and bad. And so for all of those things, I'm going to light this candle, and then I'm going to bang this singing bowl, which every week I forget it's here. And so I'm very excited to remember that it's here. and also that one too. I don't know, how do we do that one? Do we have a mallet? Anyway, all right, well, I'll do this one. We'll have a few moments of silence for all of the joys and concerns that remain unspoken. I'm going to do a reading right now, a meditative reading, and I'm not going to do a reading before my reflection. Usually I do a meditation and a reading before the reflection, but this will serve as both. It's a little bit longer. It is inspired by a poem called All Is Not Lost by Unitarian Universalist chaplains J.J. Flagg and Victoria Safford. Friend, go to the window. It's pretty easy for us here. Open the door. Move away from the screen. Pocket your phone. For just a moment, sometime today, let this November air mess with your hair, if you have any. Caress your crumpled, tear-streaked face. Kiss your bare hands as it has since you were small, and as it will as you continue to grow old. All is not lost. So go to the window, open the door. If you can't, if you're sick, if you're in jail or at work with no break, if you're stuck in an airport or riding a train or in labor right now, if your body can't move to the window or door, just imagine that you can smell the rain or taste the wind, the body and breath of our beautiful world. And close your eyes, breathe deep, drink deep the nourishing, life-giving air, and let it be strength inside you. Breathe in life, and breathe out again life, and breathe more. This is your life, and this is our life, together, you and I, and all the beloveds at risk now as never before, humans and trees and rivers and land, animals, children and birds. Breathe in love for them. Breathe in love for us all. Protection, resolve. And when you're able, when you're ready, whenever you can, breathe out hope. This may take a while. We may have to hold our breath a long while, gulping in air as if we were desperate, which today, my friend, many of us are. Breathe in rage and fear and fury, bone weariness, grief, panic, distrust. And breathe out a whisper, a sliver, a shiver, a single frail molecule of hope, to be carried like milkweed to wherever it goes. You know this and must never forget. Still and always, we are held within, and we comprise a larger love. We are held within, and we comprise the mighty, irrefutable persistence and resistance of our ancestors, and the urgent, laughing beauty of our children. We are held within, and we comprise ferocious power. Breath moves through us still, inspiring, insisting. Any act of love we undertake henceforth will be a revolution. So open your window, and go to the door and reach for a neighbor, even a stranger. Now I believe, as I didn't before, that you could knock on almost any door, tremble on the threshold, and when they open, collapse in their arms. They'll hold you. You'll hold them, weeping, fists pounding, amazed at your brazen audacity, a little embarrassed, but mostly emboldened. What on earth is left for us to lose? Take a breath. Taste the wind. Drink the rain. This feast is prepared anew each day. Remember who you are and whose you are. The beloveds who know you by your name, who expect great things of you, which is to say that you will keep on keeping on, never alone, and with all your dignities still shining. Breathe deep. And notice now who's hurting and now is in danger, who needs your hope, and more than that, way more than that, in order to survive. Hold on your brave and loving hands, stronger than you know, your brave and beating heart, and do not under any circumstances let go of beauty and truth. Do not let go of hope and love. We are held within, and we comprise a resolve no tyrant can diminish or demean. You may remain seated, and as you are able, join us in hymn number 167, Nothing But Peace Is Enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough.
Nothing but peace is enough.
Nothing but peace is enough for me.
Nothing
But peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough.
Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough
For me. I'm going to break this bowl. Yeah. I don't want to startle people. So I'm letting you know beforehand that I'm going to break the bowl. Even though I warned you, I imagine you still felt suspenseful tension as it fell before it hit the ground. I could tell by all the people that were, putting their hands on their face and their ears. And even though you knew what might happen when it hit, I imagine and saw your bodies and your minds still reacting to that shock. In fact, there were likely some of you who even reacted more because you held out some glimmer of hope that maybe it wouldn't break. If if I dropped it on the carpet? So I experienced the terrifying reality we woke to early Wednesday morning, much like breaking of this bowl, only multiplied many times over. As I awaited, let me put this down. As I awaited results, the anxious tension welled up inside me, like before the bowl was dropping. And even though I knew what could happen, I held out hope that the country would remain intact, even after the election landed. I could absolutely anticipate the potential damage of a shattering fall, but I was also certain that unlike this bowl, society was covered in a protective layer. I was sure of it. So when it shattered, it shocked me significantly more. I shed tears that morning. It was tough. Even with tons of protection, something covering the bowl, pillows on the ground, tons of protection, things can still shatter when they fall or when they are thrown down. The authentic nature of our far from perfect world, as I described it last week, is, however, improperly framed by this dichotomy of broken versus fixed. Rather, it is just always altering. It is always changing, often significantly, and it is in constant search for new balance or homeostasis. This bowl, you can say it's broken. I prefer to say it's transformed. It's transformed into these new beautiful things. These ceramic pieces seek new functions within the greater system of which they are a part. And how systems rebalance is never 100% predictable. We don't know what will happen to them, but it can be influenced. I can influence what happens to these pieces. These pieces can be intentionally used as tools to cut other things or for creating an artistic mosaic. They can still even hold soup, if maybe only just a little. Right now, I have the choice to affect the outcome of how these newly created objects will integrate into this larger system seeking balance. I have that choice. But I can also choose to say, they're broken, and disengage with them, not engage with them at all. They can't be fixed. But whether I influence their usage, whether I engage or disengage, because the system is constantly seeking balance, seeking homeostasis, other factors will affect how they reintegrate into the system in potentially harmful ways, such as leaving them on the floor for someone to get hurt, or, goodness forbid, using them as a weapon. When the election shattered our society, the system was thrown way out of balance. A wrench, and a bunch of nuts and bolts were thrown into the system. And it was thrown way out of balance, rendering it in desperate need of significant rebalancing. So we have the choice. We have the choice to stand back and do nothing. Is the lavalier on? Can you guys hear me? Oh, awesome. We have the choice to stand back and do nothing, letting other forces act upon the system in almost certainly dangerous and harmful ways. And we know how the forces will act in harmful ways because they've told us. Or we have the choice to do the incredibly hard work of positively influencing a new balance, a new homeostasis. I really like that word homeostasis, so I keep repeating it. Homeostasis. I also talked last week about how you simply cannot love something when you refuse to recognize its authentic nature, its authentic self. And that nature I talked about is a nature of always being in flux, always changing within a greater system. That's the nature of systems. And you do it a further disservice if you recognize that true nature and you give up on it, dismissing it as many would this broken bowl as broken and beyond repair, rather than engaging with it in its new form, even if that engagement involves significant struggle and immense pain over a long period of time. It takes a lot of love. I offered last week that in spite of struggle, we must do just that. We must love enough to find new utility and beauty where it absolutely still exists. Look outside. Look around you. And to never stop fighting to right systems, orienting them toward goodness, toward prosperity, and toward wisdom. So in today's reflection, this is a two-part series titled If It Ain't Broke. So today is If It Ain't Broke, Part 2, Attentive Melancholy. Attentive Melancholy. I'll continue with a suggestion of specific framing in order to facilitate accomplishing this difficult work that true love absolutely demands. Some of you may be familiar, and especially since Haven read the book, with the Japanese concept wabi-sabi. And some of you may not. Wabi originally referred to loneliness in nature. Something many of us likely feel right now when we're sitting at home. But that meaning shifted. The meaning of wabi shifted to a more positive meaning of delight in being on one's own in nature. Delight in seeing those brown leaves and the pine trees and everything else. It shifted to noticing the beauty, and it now conveys the awareness of beauty in the simple things. Being alone in nature, it facilitates disengaging with materialism and with perfectionism and with the need for a predetermined structure of a bowl, and reconnecting in spirit with the world as it truly is. Next time you walk alone in nature, feel that reconnection to the world, to the spirit of the world as it truly is. That's wabi. Sabi was first translated as withered, something we all likely also feel right now, a little withered. But its meaning too evolved toward the positive. In relation to the passage of time, withering over time, rather than withered, sabi now refers to acknowledging, accepting, and loving things for the way that they change as time passes. It encourages recognition of scars and imperfections and breakages and cracks as wondrous and beautiful reflections of growth and transformation and change and resilience, of battles fought and battles won, and of life well lived. It asks us to see beneath the superficial in order to reveal what are meaningful and lovely manifestations of transformation and evolution, and yes, aging. The phrase often used for this new sabi is attentive melancholy. Wabi-sabi, then, is represented in many aspects of Japanese culture. Excuse me for 1 second. That includes haiku poetry. What Haven was reading in the book were haiku poems, including the poetry of the famous haiku poet Matsuo Basho. Like this poem that meditates upon tranquility. Asa cha nomu so, shizuka nari, kiku no hana. A monk sips morning tea. It's quiet, like the chrysanthemums flowering. Not like, I put that in there. The chrysanthemums flowering. Or possibly this most famous and my favorite haiku of all time, which Haven also mentioned, about the wonders of being alone in nature, as we're talking about. Furuike ya kawazu tobikomu, mizu no oto. An ancient pond, a frog jumps in, the sound of water. I was taught that originally taught that haiku simply have a meter of 575 syllables. But then I went and got a degree in Japanese language and literature, and I learned that a true haiku is much more than that. It's not just 575 syllables. Each haiku must encapsulate wabi-sabi by referencing in each one the wonder of nature, the experience of the season that you're in, and referencing beauty in simplicity and impermanence. A frog jumps in, the sound of water. Probably, and the most recognizable expression of wabi-sabi in the West is not haiku, actually. It's not poetry. It's pottery. Raku pottery is taken out of the kiln while the kiln is still red hot, the pot is still red hot, and then it's put in sawdust or newspaper or feathers or horsehair, anything that can actually catch fire so that you can't control the markings on the pot in order to create unexpected colors and markings within the glaze. That's wabi-sabi. Another form of wabi-sabi pottery is called kintsugi. You may have heard of this. And it literally means to join with gold. It is a process of repairing broken pottery by highlighting the damage rather than hiding it. Wabi-sabi stipulates that an object's imperfections are what determines its value. Repairing cracks with gold makes something actually stronger than before it broke. But more than that, it illuminates its story. It tells the story over time of the piece, and it illuminates the beauty of its life and its resiliency. The wabi-sabi aesthetic originated with the Japanese tea ceremony, actually, conceived as a Buddhist mindfulness practice, guided by the following 5 principles. 1, through acceptance, you find freedom, and out of acceptance, you find growth. Accept and you find freedom. 2, all things in life, including you, are in an imperfect state of flux. So strive not for perfection, but for excellence instead. A wise preacher once told me that. 3, appreciate the beauty of all things, especially the great beauty that hides beneath the surface of what seems to be broken. 4, slow and simple is the only way to feel the joy of what it means to be alive, being mindful in nature. And 5, to be content exactly where you are, with all that you already have, is to be happy. My wise wife told me that on a Wednesday morning. Over and over and over again. Murata Shuko, who created the Japanese tea ceremony, philosophy, and aesthetic, he wrote a sort of how-to guide entitled Kokoro no Fumi, or letter of the heart. It's very short. You should read it one time. Kokoro no Fumi, letter of the heart. And reimagine this previously festooned aristocratic pastime of, formally drinking tea. Reimagine it as a spiritual ceremony that is detached from any excess and arrogance and is rooted in this process of deep listening to the natural world. He encapsulates the principles of wabi-sabi in the concluding phrase of that letter about the tea ceremony. And if you ever have a chance to do a Japanese tea ceremony, it's an amazing mindfulness practice. So the concluding phrase of the letter was this: Kokoro no shi to hanare, kokoro wo shi to cesare. And there will be a test after the presentation. What it means is, become heart's master, not heart mastered. If we are heart mastered, we are guided by desire, whereas becoming our heart's master frees us to engage with and make the most of each moment. And Murata Shuko used the word, you heard me say, kokoro, which I translated as heart, but actually defies literal translation. It encompasses heart and mind and spirit, and also it means each of these things separately, kokoro. It represents the entire inner experience, as broad or as refined as it manifests in each and every individual. So he almost certainly meant that by responding to the challenges of life, by living in the moment in order to master kokoro, he didn't mean heart's master. He meant to master one's entire self, one's entire inner self, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Be kokoro mastered. So, in all of this, in reframing this present moment of struggle, in order to actively rebalance a society seeking homeostasis after being dropped and severely damaged, let us take our lead from the evolution of wabi-sabi to move away from feelings of being alone and feelings of being withered, in order to detach from the feelings of anger and frustration and toward opening our hearts, our inner selves, to witness the beauty that lies beneath the surface, to witness the rich gifts of the melancholy and the simple waiting for us to uncover. And in order to give us motivation and hope, let us all now recognize also the awesomeness, as we did in the Billy Joel song, the history, recognize the awesomeness of this figurative patina on life, whose irregular markings and colors represent the strength and the endurance of humankind and of all nature. Let us embrace the cracks and the scars and the imperfections as wondrous and beautiful marks of overcoming a jarring and shattering transformation, and then let us take action to reintroduce the shattered pieces into the system as something new and something positive. Given the significantly horrible nature of the current inputs disrupting our societal system that wrench in a bunch of nuts, inputs which I might add have been affecting the system for a long while and would have continued even if Wednesday's shattering didn't occur, making the system better given those inputs will not only be incredibly difficult, but may not show significant results for a long time. However, love for the system means recognizing this and still doing the work. For too long, I personally have trusted there is enough protective covering to keep the societal bowl from breaking, to keep it safe. And that's led me to taking too many breaks from affecting change. And the shock of this moment, this most recent fracturing, has forced me to acknowledge that I must never ignore the fact that things can always fracture, and the work of repair is ongoing. In order to live a meaningful life filled with love, I must never rest in my search for the beauty and meaning in each and every passing moment. To help us along with that, first, I want to reiterate that nobody does or can do this work alone. We are interdependent and we are in community. As Gary said, please join us after brunch on the patio for the post-election gathering. Second, to help us along, I had planned a kintsugi art project for outside on the brunch tables. Unfortunately, this project also hit the ground and broke, temporarily. The materials that were supposed to be delivered 2 days ago still haven't arrived. Since I love this community too much to give up, I will re-engage and alter the plans. I ordered a bunch of white rocks of different shapes, and I ordered gold paint markers and gold wire. And the plan was to offer them to you to paint mindfully, imagining the gold lines you draw, filling in the cracks and gashes in our country, those that have existed for generations and those newly opened this week. And I was hoping this would help us recognize that just as these rocks have become more lovely as age has worn them, there are beautiful signs of aging that are part of this country's story of strength as well. And the idea was to imagine your new gold line repairs as the love that is needed to keep repairing society. And I bought the gold wire for you to wrap the rock in order to wear it as a necklace or otherwise keep it close as a reminder of wabi-sabi, like I keep this kindness rock in my pocket all the time. Claim it as a talisman of good fortune and strength. Sounded like a good idea. The fact is, these supplies still exist in the world. And they will arrive eventually if we do not give up on receiving them. Every one of you is invited back, invited to return and create a kintsugi charm. We will have them here when they arrive. Come anytime and create that charm. The fact is, resources for change exist in the world and will arrive if we work together to bring them forth. Every one of you is invited to return again, anytime, and together repair the cracks in society with us, with golden love. I welcome you back anytime for that purpose. Didn't realize that was the end, so let me try that again. Thank you. Normally I'll do like a crescendo, but it was at the end of the page.
Well, it's time for the offertory. It's a special offertory today because we have to raise extra money to pay for that bowl. Things are in the work, planning. Well, since it's offertory, I have another untrue story that never happened. I heard 3 girls on the Pacific Sage playground bragging about their fathers. One said, "My dad scribbles a few words, calls it a song, and they pay him $500. Second girl said, "Yeah, That's nothing. My dad scribbles a few words. He calls it a contract, and they pay him $1,000. No, that's nothing, said the third child. My dad scribbles a few words, calls it a sermon, and it takes 3 people to collect and count all the money in the room. Give generously.
Thank you. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by the giving. And let us also be grateful even for our needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. You may rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn. It's a little bit of a mystical lyric. It's called, Although This Life Is But a Wraith. Wraith is like a spirit or a ghost that comes up when someone dies. But the song is really a fight song. It's a reminder that we have to keep getting up off the mat, to always be open and to revel in that which brings us joy, but not forget that there is work to be done so that all may feel joy. Number 85, Although This Life Is But a Wraith.
Although this life is but a wraith, although we know not what we use, although we grow with little faith, give me the heart to fight and lose. Open my ears to music, let me thrill with spring's first flutes and drums, but never let me dare forget the bitter
join hands if you would like. We need all the togetherness we can get. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forever. So be it. Amen. Ashe, shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be. And now our service truly begins. Please stay for the postlude and then join us for lunch afterwards.